What does it take to rebuild? I mean, not just a city, but a spirit, after everything has been lost. Imagine being exiled for, well, generations. Your homeland desolate, your sacred traditions fragmented, distant. Then suddenly, almost out of nowhere, this surprising turn of events offers a chance to return, restore, resurrect what seemed, frankly, irrevocably gone. But, as we'll discover today, the journey back home, that's really just the beginning of the monumental, the real work. Today we're taking a deep dive into the ancient, really compelling story of Ezra. It's this powerful narrative of resilience, unwavering faith, and the immense, almost staggering effort it takes to reclaim an identity after profound, devastating loss. Our sources for this journey. They're direct excerpts from the biblical book of Ezra itself, along with some really critical supporting historical context from 2 Chronicles.
And our mission in this deep dive really is to unpack the most crucial insights from these foundational texts. We'll try to uncover how a people, stripped of pretty much everything they held dear, managed to reconstruct not only their sacred temple and their physical community, but critically, their very spiritual foundation. And they did all this while navigating both utterly unexpected support, which is fascinating, and also fierce, relentless opposition. So, yeah, get ready for some genuinely surprising facts and maybe more than a few aha moments about what it truly means to rebuild not just structures, but, well, a soul.
Okay, let's unpack this incredible journey. We should probably start with the bedrock question. Why was rebuilding even necessary in the first place?
Yeah.
This isn't just a story about architecture, right? About bricks and mortar. It's profoundly about the immense weight of history. About 70 long, silent years. Jerusalem just lay in ruins, desolate, quiet.
Yeah, that's the starting point. And the sources, especially 2 Chronicles, paint a really stark picture of what led up to that. It tells us that leading up to this devastation, God repeatedly sent prophets, messengers, trying to warn his people, patiently calling them back. The text uses this phrase, rising up early and sending them, which really conveys this sense of urgency and deep compassion. Compassion for his people and for his dwelling place, the temple.
But the response wasn't great, was it?
No, it was heartbreakingly defiant, really. They mocked his prophets and despised his words and misused his prophets. That's the language used.
It sounds so deliberate, not just ignoring, but actively mocking and despising.
Exactly. And what's truly compelling here is that this wasn't, an isolated incident, a single lapse, or just a momentary rebellion. The texts emphasize the cumulative nature of it. It was a prolonged systemic pattern of spiritual disregard, of unfaithfulness. And it eventually reached this critical tipping point where, as the scripture starkly puts it, there was no healing.
No healing. Wow, that's incredibly final.
It is, and it makes it profoundly clear that the destruction that followed wasn't just, say, a military defeat at the hands of the Babylonians, who were a superpower at the time. It was framed as a direct, inescapable consequence of their deep spiritual disconnect, their unfaithfulness. It's a powerful reminder, I think, that patterns of neglect, whether in a community, a business, or even, personal habits that can accumulate. And there comes a point where these systemic issues lead to profound, unavoidable consequences. That no healing isn't about, arbitrary divine vengeance. It's more about the natural, inevitable outcome of a spiritual system pushed far, far beyond its limits.
And the consequences were, well, you said it, devastation.
Yeah.
Absolute and horrifying. The scriptures paint this vivid, chilling picture. Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, comes up against Jerusalem. He mercilessly carries off to Babylon those who escape the sword. He strips the city, seizes all the precious utensils from the house of Jehovah, things we'll talk more about later. And then the city itself is utterly razed. The house of the true God burned to the ground. The wall of Jerusalem torn down, its fortifications shattered. All its fortified towers burned with fire, just reduced to ashes. And truly, everything of value was destroyed. Can you just imagine the sheer scale of that loss? It's not just homes and livelihoods, it's the heart of their worship, their defenses, their collective treasures. Total annihilation, like a societal reset button pressed by, well, divine decree as they saw it.
Indeed. The destruction was so thorough, so absolute, that the very land itself became desolate. It mirrored the spiritual void left by the people's actions. And here's a crucial detail, one that often gets overlooked but holds immense theological weight. The text says the land observed its Sabbaths during those 70 years of desolation.
Observed its Sabbaths. What does that mean exactly?
Well, it wasn't just a coincidence. It was seen as a direct, precise fulfillment of Jeremiah's prophecy. He foretold that the land will lie desolate for 70 years, specifically to make up for the many Sabbaths, the commanded days of rest that the Israelites hadn't observed over the centuries. That was a fundamental divine command they had neglected.
Ah, okay, so the 70 years wasn't arbitrary. It was tied to their past actions.
Exactly. This detail suggests a kind of restoration of natural and divine order, a spiritual cleansing, if you will, directly tied to those 70 years of exile. It provides this profound theological and historical explanation for the exact duration of their suffering and, crucially, the precise timing of their eventual restoration. It underscores that even in devastation, there's a divine purpose and, well, a set time for everything.
So from the depths of that utter devastation, from the ashes and desolation, this flicker of hope emerges. And here's the twist that comes from the most unexpected quarter. A Gentile king. King Cyrus of Persia. This is truly one of those what-if moments in history, isn't it?
It really is. The scriptures tell us in Ezra chapter 1 that in the very first year of Cyrus's reign over Babylon, Jehovah stirred up the spirit of King Cyrus of Persia. Now that framing is key. This wasn't just presented as a shrewd political move by Cyrus, although maybe it was partly that too. But the text frames it as a divinely inspired impulse.
Okay, so God is working through this foreign king.
That's how it's presented. And Cyrus then issues this sweeping proclamation throughout his entire vast kingdom, and he does it in writing, making it official, unassailable. And in that proclamation, he openly acknowledges Jehovah. He identifies him as the God of the heavens. He boldly states that Jehovah had given him all the kingdoms of the earth and had personally commissioned him, Cyrus, to build a house for him in Jerusalem.
Wow, that's quite a statement from a Persian king.
It is. And this is where it gets really interesting. You have a non-Israelite king, a powerful ruler of a colossal empire, seemingly moved by a direct divine impulse. And he's not just permitting, he's actively ordering the rebuilding of the house of Jehovah in Jerusalem. This is just a profound moment of divine intervention working through an incredibly unlikely agent.
Not through an Israelite prophet or king.
No. Through a foreign monarch who publicly recognizes the sovereignty of the God of Israel. It speaks volumes, I think, about the universality of God's plan and his incredible ability to use anyone, even those outside the traditional fold, to accomplish his purposes. You know, you think about bureaucracy, right? Often seen as a hindrance, red tape.
Oh, yeah.
Yet here, it's the meticulous, almost mundane act of record-keeping within this vast empire that becomes the unlikely, surprising vehicle for a grand divine plan. It's kind of an aha moment about how grand purposes can unfold, even in the most seemingly neutral or even frustrating systems around us.
And the decree itself, it wasn't just a simple permission slip, was it? Or like a polite suggestion?
Not at all. It was astonishingly generous. Cyrus declared that anyone among God's people could go up to Jerusalem to rebuild the temple. Fine. But he didn't stop there. He commanded their neighbors, the people living around them, those who were not exiles, to support them with silver, with gold, with goods, with livestock, and with voluntary offerings for the house of the true God.
Get out. He told the neighbors to fund it.
Pretty much. Imagine that. This wasn't just, you can go if you want to. It was an active endorsement and a powerful mandate for material aid. They were to receive substantial resources for their arduous journey and for the huge rebuilding effort from people who weren't even of their own nation. It's an absolutely unprecedented level of support from an imperial power towards a subjugated people.
That's incredible. So this wasn't just a token gesture.
No, definitely not. It was a royal mandate for active endorsement and substantial material aid. It ensured the returning exiles had the necessary resources. This level of generosity highlights the extraordinary, maybe even divine nature of Cyrus's decree. It transformed what could have been a really difficult, unsupported return into effectively a state-sponsored endeavor. This unexpected patronage just completely changed the landscape for them. It set the stage for this dramatic, divinely supported return.
So with this unprecedented decree, the stage was set. The journey home could begin.
Yes, but first making it tangible, turning words on a scroll into actual physical assets.
Right. And King Cyrus acted. He did something truly remarkable. He personally brought out the actual utensils from Jehovah's house, the very ones Nebuchadnezzar had plundered during that devastating destruction of Jerusalem 70 years earlier.
Imagine that moment. These sacred items, maybe used for generations in Solomon's magnificent temple, held captive, likely desecrated in Babylon for decades. Now they're being carefully brought out, handled with reverence, and meticulously handed over to Mithridath, the royal treasurer.
And there's this real attention to detail, isn't there? Mithridath then painstakingly counts every single item out to Sheshbazzar. He's specifically called the Prince of Judah. So this wasn't casual, it was formal, accountable, a restoration of sacred heritage.
That detail speaks volumes, doesn't it? It shows the tangible, profound commitment of the Persian Empire to Cyrus's decree. It's not just about letting them go, it's about actively restoring their heritage, giving them the very instruments needed to reestablish their worship. The meticulous accounting emphasizes the immense value placed on these sacred utensils, not just by the returning exiles, obviously, but, surprisingly, by the Persian administration itself. They treated them with official reference.
So it validated their religious identity.
And concretely facilitated their return to a full spiritual life. It wasn't just symbolic, it was practical, re-equipping the temple for its sacred purpose.
And the inventory itself, it's astounding. The specificity, the sheer volume. We're not talking about a few ceremonial items here. Ezra lists 30 gold basins, 1,000 silver basins, 29 silver replacement vessels, 30 small gold bowls, 410 large silver bowls, and 1,000 other utensils.
It's an incredible list.
And the grand total of all the gold and silver utensils, 5,400.
5,400.
I mean, put that in perspective. It's like a museum-quality collection of sacred artifacts, but enough to fully re-equip a major religious institution. This was not a token gesture, it was comprehensive. It highlights the true scale of Cyrus's generosity and commitment.
Absolutely. The detailed list confirms it was a substantial restoration. It provided the literal material foundation for the temple's reconstruction and, crucially, for reestablishing daily sacrifices and worship, which were central to their faith. This meticulous detail shows the extraordinary extent of the Persian king's support and the remarkable care taken. So the people are ready, the treasures are returned. But who exactly were these people making this incredibly significant journey? What was the scale of it all?
That's a great question because the journey itself was, well, monumental. And the sources give us this incredible, almost granular sense of scale. Ezra chapter 2 provides this detailed, almost overwhelming list of those who returned. It's not just a summary, it's a precise census, broken down meticulously by paternal house, family lineage.
Right. You see the sons of Parash, Pithaf Moab, Elam, many others listed with their numbers. It shows how important tribal and family identity was in their culture, especially after being scattered.
But it's not just family lines, is it? It also meticulously lists priests, Levites, singers, gatekeepers, even the Nethinim. Who were the Nethinim exactly?
They were essentially dedicated temple servants, often non-Israelite in origin, actually, who performed various duties, sometimes more laborious tasks, to support the sacred rituals and the priests and Levites.
Okay, so this census, this list,
Yeah.
why is it so detailed? What does it tell us?
Well, it underscores several critical points. First, the sheer scale of the return. It highlights the resilience and determination after generations away. Second, the emphasis on lineage and community identity was absolutely vital for reestablishing their social and religious structure. Knowing your family line, your designated role that was crucial for their collective sense of self, belonging, purpose after so long in Babylon. And finally, including all these diverse roles, priests for worship, Levites for temple duties, singers for praise, gatekeepers for security, Nethinim for general service, it shows the focus wasn't just on rebuilding a structure, it was about meticulously recreating a fully functioning society centered around the sacred institution of the temple. It was holistic.
A whole ecosystem, really.
Exactly, from the highest spiritual office down to the most humble servant. A complete rebuilding effort.
And the numbers are just staggering when you add them up. The source says the entire congregation as one body was 42,360. 42,000 people.
And that's not even counting everyone.
Right. It says it doesn't include their extensive support staff. 7,337 male and female slaves and 200 male and female singers. Imagine the logistics. Moving that many people, all their belongings, across hundreds of miles of potentially hostile territory.
It's mind-boggling.
And they even count the animals, which gives you an even deeper sense of the sheer size and complexity of this migrating community. Listen to this. 736 horses, 245 mules, 435 camels, and 6,720 donkeys.
Wow. That's a lot of donkeys.
It is. This wasn't just a few individuals making a pilgrimage. It was a mass exodus, a complete resettlement. People, possessions, livelihoods, animals, everything. It required incredible coordination. immense perseverance, and just this deep-seated desire to reclaim their identity.
And beyond the numbers, think about the logistical challenge. Transporting all those animals, especially over long distances, you need food, water, rest stops for weeks, maybe months. This level of detail in the census really brings home the reality of the monumental task they faced. It was a test of endurance and organization on an almost unprecedented scale.
Okay, so they make it. This massive group arrives back in Jerusalem in Judah. What's the first thing they do? Start mapping out the temple.
No, interestingly, the first and most immediate order of business wasn't structural, it was spiritual. Reestablishing their spiritual heart.
How did they do that?
The sources tell us that in the 7th month, the people gathered in Jerusalem united as one man. And under the leadership of Joshua the high priest and Zerubbabel the governor, they didn't hesitate. They immediately built the altar of the God of Israel.
The altar first, before anything else.
Their very first act upon returning to their desolate homeland, consecrating a place for worship, reestablishing that connection with the divine, they began offering burnt sacrifices morning and evening, meticulously following the law of Moses. And this wasn't just piety, it was courageous. The text explicitly mentions they did this despite their fear of the local people.
Right, they weren't exactly welcomed with open arms by everyone already living there. They were vulnerable.
Extremely vulnerable,
Yeah.
exposed, but their spiritual commitment came first. It shows deep dedication, unwavering courage. Their spiritual conviction transcended their immediate physical safety concerns. It was an act of profound faith, really, a defiant affirmation of their identity right there in the face of their vulnerability.
And then came the temple foundation itself. That must have been a huge moment.
Absolutely pivotal. It happened in the 2nd month of the 2nd year after their arrival. The Levites, those 20 years old and up, were put in charge, supervising the immense project. When that foundation was finally laid, it was, well, profoundly emotional and complex.
Complex, how so? I imagine just pure joy.
There was joy, definitely. The people sang and praised Jehovah, proclaiming, "For he is good, for his loyal love endures forever toward Israel." An overwhelming outpouring of collective relief and elation. What's truly fascinating and often missed is the mixed reaction. It wasn't uniform joy, it was this deeply human cacophony of emotion. The sources tell us that many of the priests and the Levites and the heads of the paternal houses, the old men who had seen the former house, wept aloud with a loud voice, while many others shouted joyfully.
Wow. Weeping and shouting at the same time.
Exactly. Imagine that sound, this powerful blend of unbridled jubilation for the new beginning and profound echoing sorrow for the loss of what once was. The older generation remembered the magnificence of Solomon's temple before its utter destruction. They knew what had been lost. The sound was so great, the text says, it was heard far away, an audible testament to their mingled feelings.
So it shows that rebuilding, especially after loss, isn't simple. It's joy mixed with sorrow.
Precisely. Celebration for what's new, but also a poignant sense of loss for what can never be fully recovered. And it also, quite presciently, foreshadows the challenges to come. Challenges from those who might not appreciate their efforts, or maybe didn't share the same deep vision for this restoration.
And those challenges,
Yeah.
they didn't take long to appear, did they?
Almost immediately. Once the rebuilding effort truly got underway, opposition arose, and it was cunningly disguised at first. The sources introduce us to the adversaries of Judah and Benjamin. When they heard about the rebuilding, they approached Zerubbabel and the leaders, and they had the seemingly helpful offer. They said, "Let us build with you, for we seek your God just as you do, and we have been sacrificing to him since the days of King Esarhaddon, the king of Assyria, who brought us up here."
Okay, on the surface that sounds reasonable. We worship the same God, let's build together.
Exactly. It sounds generous, unifying, but it raises this important, almost strategic question. Was this genuine collaboration, or was it a cunning, insidious ploy? An attempt to infiltrate and maybe control the rebuilding from within?
How did the leaders react?
Their response was remarkably firm, uncompromising, insightful, really. Zerubbabel, Joshua, and the other leaders declared unequivocally, "You have nothing to do with us in building a house to our God, for we alone will build it for Jehovah, the God of Israel, just as King Cyrus, the king of Persia, has commanded us."
Wow, a flat rejection. No room for negotiation.
None. It indicates they had a clear understanding, or at least a strong suspicion, of the adversary's true motives. Perhaps recognizing a superficial or insincere claim to worship the same God, they understood that any compromise on this foundational sacred project could inevitably dilute their unique identity, subvert their divine purpose. This wasn't just a building project, it was an act of defining who they were.
And the adversary's reaction to being rejected, that kind of revealed their true colors, didn't it?
Immediately, dramatically. When their offer of help was so decisively rebuffed, they didn't just walk away. The sources say they immediately began to discourage the people of Judah and to intimidate them from building.
So straight to intimidation.
Direct, calculated psychological warfare designed to break morale, and they didn't stop there. They went further, deploying financial and political leverage. They even hired counselors against them to frustrate their plan.
Hired counselors.
Oh.
Like lobbyists, almost.
Essentially, yes. People skilled in political maneuvering to block the project through official channels. And this wasn't a short-term nuisance. The sources emphasize this calculated, multi-pronged campaign lasted for a very long period. It continued all the days of King Cyrus, the king of Persia, and until the reign of Darius, the king of Persia.
That's potentially years of sustained opposition.
Exactly. A sustained, calculated, deeply frustrating effort to undermine and completely halt the sacred work. It shows that external opposition can take many forms: overt aggression, subtle bureaucratic maneuvering, and as we'll see, it quickly escalated to the highest levels of government, leading to a significant, painful setback. It's a powerful lesson in how political influence can be weaponized.
And that escalation, it happened pretty fast, right? They took it straight to the top.
They did. They weren't content with just local harassment. They wrote formal, carefully worded letters to successive Persian kings. One particularly damaging letter was sent to King Artaxerxes, likely a successor to Cyrus or Cambyses, before Darius. It came from officials like Rehum, the chief government official, and Shimshai, the scribe.
What did the letter say?
They shrewdly accused Jerusalem of being a rebellious and wicked city, historically known for sedition against kings, playing on imperial fears. They argued that if the city and its wall were rebuilt, it would inevitably become a costly drain on the empire. They made this compelling economic argument, claiming its inhabitants will not pay tribute, taxes, or tolls, hitting the king right where it hurt his revenue and imperial stability. They even urged the king to investigate historical records to verify their claims. Very clever. They knew how to work the system.
Using history as a weapon.
Exactly. Highlighting the power of political maneuvering and the strategic, often selective use of historical narratives. The adversaries understood what arguments would sway a monarch concerned with stability, control, and revenue. Their accusations were expertly crafted to appeal directly to Artaxerxes' self-interest, playing on fears of rebellion and financial loss. A well-executed bureaucratic attack.
And it worked.
Chillingly, yes. Artaxerxes' reply confirmed their findings, or at least their fears. He responded, stating clearly, "This city has been rebellious against kings, and uprising and sedition have been carried on in it." Based on this evidence, he issued a clear, unequivocal command. Issue an order for these men to stop their work, and this city should not be rebuilt until I issue an order.
Oh, devastating.
Absolutely. So the officials, empowered by the king's decree, went in haste to Jerusalem and compelled them by force to stop their work. This was a crushing reversal. All that hope, the arduous journey, the hard work, halted by force. The work on the house of God stopped until the second year of the reign of Darius the king.
How long was that pause, roughly?
Potentially several years. A significant, forced, painful pause in construction. Imagine the demoralization, a real test of their faith, their perseverance, their resolve.
A devastating blow. But you hinted this wasn't the final word.
Not at all. Despite the king's order, the physical stop, the spirit of the people, though tested, was eventually, miraculously, reignited. It speaks to that inner resilience.
And how did that happen? What got them started again?
Prophets.
Yeah.
Powerful prophetic voices. The sources tell us that Haggai the prophet and Zechariah the son of Iddo the prophet prophesied to the Jews who were in Judah and Jerusalem in the name of the God of Israel.
Haggai and Zechariah, their books are right there in the Bible.
They are. And they weren't just offering comfort. They were actively challenging the people's complacency, their despair, urging them to resume the work, effectively contradicting the royal prohibition.
It took guts.
Incredible courage and spiritual conviction, and it worked. Following their powerful, divinely inspired encouragement, Zerubbabel and Jeshua, the leaders, rose and started to rebuild the house of God, even while the official ban was still technically in place.
So just started building again, defying the order.
Yes. And what's truly compelling here is the crucial role of these prophetic voices in galvanizing a disheartened, legally stymied people. It shows that even with official prohibition, bureaucratic hurdles, seemingly insurmountable obstacles, spiritual motivation, direct divine guidance can drive action, rekindle hope, prompt defiance against the odds. The text even adds this crucial detail. The eye of their God was upon the elders of the Jews, subtly indicating divine protection.
Oh, like God was watching over them specifically during this risky phase.
Exactly, allowing them to continue working even while, inevitably, another official inquiry began. It implies divine protection during a period of extreme vulnerability.
And that renewed effort, that bold act of faith, it didn't go unnoticed, I assume.
Of course not. Tatnai, the governor of the whole region beyond the river, the Persian province, including Judah and his colleagues, quickly came to Jerusalem. They were alerted to the resumed work, and they weren't there to help. They were there to investigate, maybe reimpose the ban forcefully.
Some more confrontation.
Yes. They directly asked Zerubbabel and the elders with undeniable authority, "Who issued the order for you to build this house and to complete the structure?" They also demanded, quite pointedly, the names of the men building. It was a direct challenge, a second wave of official scrutiny, a moment of immense tension.
Could have been another work stoppage right there.
Easily. But this time, the outcome would be dramatically, even miraculously different. This formal inquiry, while initially threatening, inadvertently led to the very breakthrough they desperately needed. It's a striking example of how perceived setbacks can become springboards.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What was the breakthrough?
The archival discovery. It's one of the most exciting parts of the story. King Darius, now the reigning Persian emperor, after Artaxerxes received Tatnai's report. The Jewish elders had claimed Cyrus gave them permission, so Darius, needing to verify this, issued a decree that search be made in the house of the archives where the treasures were stored in Babylon.
Searching the royal records. High stakes.
Immensely high stakes. A meticulous search through the imperial records of one of history's most powerful empires. And what did they find? Not in Babylon itself, interestingly, but in Ecbatana, in Media, another significant administrative center. They found a scroll, a memorandum, meticulously recorded from King Cyrus's very first year, the original decree.
No way they actually found it after all that time.
They did, and this is where it gets really interesting. This discovery was a complete, undeniable game changer. It wasn't just a vague memory or a verbal promise that could be dismissed. It was a clear, legally binding document, recorded and preserved within the intricate, efficient Persian record-keeping system.
So the bureaucracy that stopped them before now saves them.
Isn't that ironic? It highlights the incredible administrative efficiency of the Persians, but more importantly, the crucial role of accurate historical documentation. Without this meticulously kept record, gathering dust in an archive miles away, the whole rebuilding effort might have stayed stalled indefinitely, seen as a rogue operation. It's a powerful testament, perhaps, to divine providence working through the very system that had previously hindered them, turning an obstacle into definitive confirmation.
And did the decree confirm what the elders claimed? Did it mention the temple?
Oh, it did, and it wasn't vague. It actually specified precise, ambitious details for the temple structure. Its height should be 60 cubits, and its width 60 cubits, with 3 layers of large stones rolled into place and 1 layer of timber.
60 cubits. How big is that?
A cubit is roughly a forearm's length, maybe 18 inches, so 60 cubits is about 90 to 100 feet tall and wide. A massive, impressive structure. It confirms the intended grandeur, and crucially, it reiterated that the expenses were to be promptly paid from the king's house.
So imperial funding confirmed.
Explicit, substantial financial backing from the royal treasury itself. And it explicitly mandated the return of all the gold and silver utensils Nebuchadnezzar had taken, reinforcing Cyrus's original intent.
This changes everything.
Completely. This confirmed original mandate gave the Jews an undeniable, unassailable legal basis. It elevated their project to a royally sanctioned, imperially funded endeavor. The full weight of the Persian crown was now behind them. And Darius, he didn't just uphold the decree. He issued an even more powerful and frankly terrifying decree himself.
More powerful than Cyrus.
His response was unequivocal, forceful endorsement, backed by the full might and terrifying authority of the Persian Empire. He immediately ordered Tatnai, the governor, and his colleagues to keep away from there, a direct command. Cease all interference, stop bothering them. But then he commanded them to actively support the Jewish elders, ensuring the expenses are to be promptly given to these men from the royal treasury without interruption.
Wow, what a reversal. From obstruction to active funding.
Exactly. The king was now effectively sponsoring the rebuilding, making it an undeniable imperial project. Full stop.
And you said his decree was terrifying.
Oh, yeah. The severity of Darius's warning underscores his absolute commitment. No messing around. For anyone who dared to alter his decree, he mandated a chilling punishment. A timber would be pulled from his house and set up, and he himself be impaled on it, and his house be made into a public latrine.
Good grief, that's graphic and brutal.
Brutal. A public shaming and a horrific deterrent, designed to strike fear into anyone even thinking about defiance. Furthermore, Darius invoked divine judgment. He prayed that God, who has caused his name to reside there, may overthrow any king and people who tries to alter or destroy that house of God in Jerusalem. He is invoking the God of Israel against any future interference. It shows the profound depth of his commitment, his recognition of the divine purpose behind the temple.
Unbelievable, coming from a Persian emperor.
Astonishing. This kind of overwhelming backing from the most powerful man in the world. It removed all doubt, obliterated all opposition.
And the impact must have been immediate.
Immediate, devastatingly effective, absolute. Tatnai and his colleagues, undoubtedly shaken by Darius's decree, promptly carried out the order to the letter. Kept away, ceased interference, ensured the funds flowed. Meanwhile, the Jewish elders continued building and prospered through the prophesying of Haggai the prophet and Zechariah the son of Iddo.
So the spiritual guidance continued alongside the political backing.
Yes, a perfect storm, really. Divine will, powerful political support, unwavering human perseverance, all leading to the triumphant completion of the temple.
So they finally finished it, after everything.
Yes, it was a moment of profound, overwhelming joy, immense accomplishment. The sources tell us it was finally finished on the 3rd day of the month, Adar, in the 6th year of the reign of Darius the king. Imagine the jubilation, the sheer relief after years of exile, opposition, hard work.
It's been an incredible celebration.
Huge. The dedication ceremony was massive, joyous. The Israelites, priests, Levites offered incredibly significant sacrifices. 100 bulls, 200 rams, 400 male lambs, plus 12 male goats as a sin offering for all Israel, representing all the tribes. They meticulously appointed priests and Levites in their divisions for the service of the house of God in Jerusalem, according to the law of Moses. Every detail observed, ensuring the temple was fully functional, ritually clean, perfectly consecrated.
A complete restoration of worship.
Exactly, a profound spiritual milestone. The ability to complete the temple and immediately reestablish and celebrate central religious festivals in a purified, sacred space. It signaled a full, tangible return to their spiritual heritage, their covenant relationship, the joy of the celebration, the generous sacrifices. It shows deep relief, accomplishment, renewed devotion, a collective sigh of relief, a powerful affirmation of their restored identity.
That celebration didn't stop with the dedication, did it?
No, it continued. Following that momentous event, the former exiles celebrated the Passover on the 14th day of the 1st month. The priests and Levites purified themselves as one, ensuring ritual cleanliness, and sacrificed the Passover offering for everyone. And it wasn't just one day. They also celebrated the Festival of Unleavened Bread for 7 days with joy.
7 days of joyous celebration.
Yes, this sustained period was absolutely crucial for solidifying their rediscovered identity, their commitment to the law. And they recognized with deep gratitude that Jehovah had caused them to rejoice, and he had turned the heart of the king of Assyria toward them.
Wait, king of Assyria? I thought it was Persia, Darius.
Good catch. Yes, sometimes in the text, Assyria is used as a sort of general term for the dominant Mesopotamian power, which by this time was Persia. It's likely referring to Darius here. They saw God's hand in turning the king's heart toward them to strengthen their hands for the work on the house of the true God. They saw divine intervention even in the political support.
Acknowledging God's hand to their success.
Profoundly. Recognizing the shift in the Persian king's heart wasn't just chance or politics, but God's intervention. It underscores their belief that this return and rebuilding wasn't solely human achievement, but divinely orchestrated. So the physical temple is rebuilt, worship is reestablished, but the work isn't done.
Right, building alone doesn't make a community spiritually whole.
Exactly. Now the focus shifts. A new pivotal leader emerges to focus on the even deeper work of spiritual and legal reform. It's one thing to rebuild bricks and mortar, quite another to rebuild the spiritual integrity, the moral fabric of a people. And that's where Ezra comes in.
Ezra. Okay, so tell us about him. Who was he?
We're introduced to him with this very specific, loaded description. Ezra, a skilled copyist of the law of Moses. That immediately tells you about his profound expertise, his intellectual prowess, his deep dedication to the sacred texts. He wasn't just any priest.
A scholar priest.
Precisely. And the sources tell us something even more telling about his character. He had, quote, prepared his heart to consult the law of Jehovah and to practice it and to teach it in Israel. This wasn't just academic interest or professional duty. It was a deeply personal, committed devotion, living by, understanding, and disseminating the divine law.
He lived it. He didn't just study it.
That's the sense you get. And in the 7th year of King Artaxerxes now, this is a different Artaxerxes, the one who reigned decades after Darius, Artaxerxes, along among Ezra, comes up from Babylon. And he's carrying a crucial, empowering letter from the king himself.
Another royal decree. The Persians seem quite involved.
They do. And this decree for Ezra was incredibly broad, remarkably generous. It wasn't just a letter of passage. It was a full royal mandate for societal and religious reform. It granted Ezra substantial amounts of silver, gold, vessels for the temple from the king's treasury, his counselors, and from voluntary offerings collected in Babylon. The specific quantities listed are impressive. 100 talents of silver.
How much is a talent again?
About 75 pounds, so 7,500 pairs of silver, plus 100 cores of wheat, 100 baths of wine, 100 baths of oil. These were massive measures, ensuring sustenance and supplies, and listen to this, and salt without limit.
Salt without limit. Why salt?
Well, salt often signified preservation, purity, and importantly, an enduring covenant in ancient Near Eastern treaties. Salt without limit implies immense, unrestricted provision for the temple sacrifices and related needs. It symbolized the king's enduring support.
Okay, so massive resources. What else did the decree grant him?
Unprecedented authority to appoint magistrates and judges to administer justice according to the law of God, and crucially, to teach the law to anyone who didn't know it. He was empowered to educate the populace, and the decree had teeth. Those who didn't obey the law faced severe punishments: death, exile, confiscation of goods, or prison.
Serious consequence.
Very serious. And strategically, to support the religious establishment, priests, Levites, singers, gatekeepers, Nethinim, all temple personnel were specifically exempted from tribute, toll, or tax. It's a comprehensive plan for societal and religious reform, solidifying their identity under the law with the full backing of imperial power.
So Ezra arrives with this huge mandate, immense resources, but also immense responsibility. And risk, presumably, traveling with all that treasure.
Absolutely. The journey itself becomes this profound testament to faith over force. Ezra assembles the heads of families by the river Ahava to prepare, organize the thousands joining him. And during this assembly, she discovers a critical shortage. Not enough Levites, essential personnel for proper temple service and ritual purity.
A problem right at the outset.
Yes, but Ezra is proactive. He doesn't just lament, he immediately sends messengers to find and persuade Levites and Nethinim to join them. He gathers 258, ensuring the temple worship can function properly upon arrival. Shows his commitment to the law's details.
Okay, so he gets the personnel sorted. What about the journey itself? The danger.
This is what's really striking. It defines Ezra's character. He proclaims a fast by the river Ahava for everyone, to humble ourselves before our God, to seek from him our right way for us from the enemy on the road. And here's the key. He explicitly states he was ashamed to ask the king for soldiers and horsemen to protect them.
Ashamed. Why?
Because, he says, he had previously spoken confidently to the king about God's powerful protection for those who seek him. To then ask for a military escort would, in his eyes, contradict his own statement of faith.
Wow. So he's putting his money where his mouth is, faith-wise.
Completely. It's a profound public demonstration of unwavering reliance on divine providence over imperial military might. A risky yet deeply spiritual choice. It showed the people his absolute trust in God.
And he was traveling with a fortune.
An immense amount of treasure. He entrusted it to 12 chiefs of the priests and Levites. The inventory again is staggering. 650 talents of silver, 100 talents of silver articles, 100 talents of gold, 20 gold bowls, plus valuable copper vessels. He warns them to guard these holy treasures carefully, dedicated to Jehovah. And miraculously, they journey safely. Upon arrival in Jerusalem, they meticulously weigh and record everything at the house of God. Accountability again.
And then more sacrifices.
Yes. Significant burnt offerings, 12 bulls for all Israel, 96 rams, 77 male lambs, and 12 male goats for a sin offering, reaffirming their covenant. Finally, they deliver the king's decrees to the local Persian governors, the satraps, ensuring they understand the royal mandate to support the people and the temple, securing their position.
So the journey was successful, treasures delivered, initial worship performed. Seems like everything is finally falling into place.
You'd think so. But a new, deeply internal challenge awaited Ezra in Jerusalem, one that struck not at the physical structure, but at the very heart of the community's identity. A crisis far more insidious than any external adversary.
What was it?
It emerged almost immediately upon his arrival. Officials approached him with alarming news. The people of Israel, including, shockingly, a significant number of priests and Levites, the custodians of spiritual purity, have not separated themselves from the peoples of the lands, meaning they had intermarried extensively with the surrounding non-Israelite nations.
Intermarriage. Why was that seen as such a crisis?
Because they had taken some of their daughters as wives for themselves and for their sons, effectively mingling the holy seed with these foreign nations. This was viewed as a direct, grave violation of God's commands in the law, commands designed to keep Israel distinct, pure in their worship, preventing assimilation and idolatry. The concept of holy seed was crucial, the Israelites as a people set apart by God, a lineage intended to remain distinct to preserve their unique covenant. Marrying outside was seen as literally mingling or diluting this consecrated identity, risking spiritual contamination.
It would threaten their core identity and relationship with God.
Exactly, and Ezra's reaction shows the depth of his anguish. It was physical, visceral. He tore my garment and cloak and pulled out some of the hair of my head and my beard and sat stunned.
Pulling his own hair out, he was devastated.
Utterly devastated. This wasn't just a cultural issue, it was a fundamental breach of covenant, jeopardizing everything they had just rebuilt. His passionate public prayer reflects this deep anguish. He confesses the collective great guilt, acknowledging their current difficulties were just punishment for past unfaithfulness. He laments, "We are slaves, and our God has not abandoned us to restore Jerusalem and to give us a stone wall."
Yeah.
It raises that painful question, how could they rebuild the physical temple only to compromise the spiritual foundation so intimately?
A powerful reminder that buildings aren't enough.
Exactly. True restoration has to go deeper. And Ezra's profound distress, his public grief and confession, it actually moved the people to action.
How did they respond?
The scene is incredibly moving. As Ezra prayed and wept prostrate before the temple, a very large congregation gathered around him, for the people were weeping very much. His raw conviction sparked communal repentance. Shechaniah, a leader among them, stands up and proposes a drastic covenant.
What was the proposal?
"Let us now make a covenant with our God to send away all the foreign wives and their children, according to your counsel and according to the law." They urged Ezra, "Rise, for this matter belongs to you, and we are with you. Be strong and take action." It shows the power of a leader's conviction to catalyze such a drastic, unified response, despite the profound, painful personal cost involved.
Sending away wives and children, that's incredibly harsh.
It sounds incredibly harsh to our modern ears, absolutely, and it must have been agonizingly difficult. But from their perspective, shaped by the law and the recent trauma of exile caused by perceived unfaithfulness, it was seen as necessary surgery to save the whole body, to preserve their covenant identity. They followed through. Ezra made the leaders swear an oath. A proclamation gathered everyone in Jerusalem within 3 days.
Under threat of consequences.
Severe consequences. All his possessions be devoted to destruction, and he himself be expelled from the congregation. Underscoring the gravity. When the people gathered, they were trembling because of this matter and because of the heavy rain. You feel the emotional weight, the physical misery. A committee was appointed to investigate each case meticulously. This painful process, documented in a detailed list in Ezra 10, took 3 full months.
3 months of investigating families.
Yes, showing the scope and difficulty. Ultimately, they agreed to send away their foreign wives and offered a ram for their guilt, acknowledging their transgression and seeking atonement. A painful, but for them necessary act to seal the spiritual integrity of the community after generations of assimilation and exile. It concluded this intense period of reconstruction.
Wow, what a journey.
Yeah.
From ruins to a rebuilt temple, and then this intense internal reform.
It really is an incredible arc.
So what does this all mean for us? What are the takeaways from this deep dive into Ezra? We've seen this incredible journey, haven't we? From utter devastation to profound restoration. We saw prophecy fulfilled the 70 years, the land observing its Sabbaths. We saw surprising support from unexpected places, Cyrus, Darius funding it, protecting it, and relentless opposition that forced perseverance adversaries, bureaucratic blockades. But maybe most importantly, we explored that constant tension between physical rebuilding and spiritual integrity, and how dedicated, courageous leadership was crucial in navigating it all, right down to those painful personal decisions.
Absolutely. And this ancient story, I think, echoes powerfully in any endeavor to rebuild after loss. Whether it's a community after a disaster, a business reinventing itself, or an individual striving to regain purpose after personal loss. It highlights that true, lasting restoration often requires more than just external resources, though those are invaluable. It requires that unwavering internal commitment to foundational principles, even when it demands immense sacrifice, uncomfortable truths. It reminds us that external support is a blessing, but true strength, lasting reconstruction, ultimately comes from within, from that deep, resilient commitment to core values, identity, spiritual integrity.
That's a powerful thought. True strength comes from within. So for you, our listener, maybe the question to ponder is this. What is the thing for you to rebuild? Not just structures or external circumstances, but maybe a sense of purpose, of identity after significant loss. And how do we ensure in our communities, our lives, our work, that foundational principles aren't lost or even compromised in that often difficult, complex process of rebuilding?